Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about the Paw Paws and some stuff you might want to know. So I would just want to start by saying this is the south side of my barn, and that's probably where you should have your, or pretty much any plant that doesn't need full sun, you would put on the south side. I had in a previous video I built this little cage for my Paw Paws for this year, and this was the cage that I had that I used for last year. Now, last year I did pretty good, but not a lot of them made it. So I'm in the midst of just cleaning it out, finding which ones are struggling or growing. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull them out. We're going to put the ones that are not growing over here, and we'll get them back up to the greenhouse. And then we're going to repurpose this cage because I want to show you right here that I was able to pick up a bunch of Paw Paws for $10 a pop. They're 2 years old, which I thought was just an absolute great deal. And I got them at Northland Nursery at 722 5th Concession, just off Highway 6 North in Waterdown. So if you want to check them out, definitely you'll see them on Marketplace too. So take a look, because they have a lot of other plants there for sale too as well, and they helped me out a lot. I talked to the owner, Kathy, and she explained some of her experience when it comes to growing Paw Paws, and she has about 2,500 seeds starting right now, so everything is all started from seed. And she also has about another, I don't know, 2,000 plants for sale, so they're ready to go. So let me just show you these plants, and I'll show you what kind of shape they're in. They're in pretty good shape. Okay, so these are the Paw Paws I picked up yesterday. I got a little bit of sun scorch on there on this one here because I had them in the back of my car. But what you want to know, and here's what she told me. So a lot of times you need something to cross-pollinate, and a lot of people think that you have to go out and buy a plant from this guy and a plant, you know, halfway across the world and stuff like that, and that's not really the case. What you can do is, when you're growing from seed, the seed have different genetics in each and every one, which will cross-pollinate towards each other. So just remember that growing from seed can hurt, and yeah, that's what you're going to want to do. Now, the other thing that she had taught me was, if you're going to grow in pots, now these ones are fertilized, so she's got some slow release fertilizer in here, and she says if you're growing in pots, you want to use a fertilizer, a slow release fertilizer with micronutrients. If you don't do that, you're probably going to have some struggle on some of your plants, which is probably why some of your plants get to a certain size, at least some of mine get to a certain point, and then they're just kind of wanting to peter out, and you can't figure out why. You've been giving them enough water, you know, but that's what it is. Now, when you go to put these in the ground, you don't want to use the micronutrients because the ground has all the micronutrients that it needs. So you just want to use a regular fertilizer. Now, I don't use a lot of fertilizer here, barely at all, and the only time I ever use it is probably in this stage when they're a little bit younger. But anything that grows fruit doesn't get fertilizer. So I'm trying to stick to the organic permaculture principles, and that's what I do. So if you are struggling with some of your plants and you're growing them in pots, then that's just probably what the problem is. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these Paw Paws, I'm going to situate them over here, and they're going to stay there for 1 more year. And before you go, I'm definitely going to show you an update on the other Paw Paws. Now, the last thing I want to tell you for sure is patience. My Paw Paws are just starting to show now, some of them, and it's been over 4 months since they had already sprouted a taproot and I had planted the seed. So if it just takes a long time, it just does, and that's just the way it is. But definitely do not put these until they're about 3 or 4 years old out into full sun, because they just won't be able to handle it. And don't forget to regularly water them, because they definitely need water, and they need a really good drainage. So if they got a good drain and lots of water, they should do really, really well after a couple of years out in the field. So that's the idea. I got 12 here. We're going to count up the ones that made it, and then we're going to show you the other ones there too. So stay with me. All right, so this is this year's. I stratified these seeds in the wintertime, and yeah, so I have about 6 or 7 here that are struggling. a little bit. Some are doing better than others. It looks like certain things like this one here, it looks like something bit the end off in some way. So this one I'm going to leave. I had moved it out from the wall because I feel it just wasn't getting enough light. I noticed that it was all shaded and dark. Now that's fine, but it's not going to grow very well. So that shade on the top, which I also duplicated over here, and this is just a weight on top to keep it so the wind doesn't blow it off, but that should keep it from scorching, getting sun scorch. So that's my final placement for the winter, I guess, for now, and we'll see how it goes. But you can see, you know, in the dark, too much darkness creates that you get a lot of that moss, and you get a lot of little bugs. So I may have to spray them a little bit just to keep them to go until they can get in the ground. And then once they're in the ground, no more herbicides, no more pesticides, no more anything. But unfortunately, you got to do what you have to do to get them to grow. So if that means you got to fertilize them, permaculture or not, and you do what you have to do. Now these are just starts. They're not in the food forest yet. So again, I want to reiterate, these are going to be permaculture. They are going to be organic, but just maybe not at the moment. So don't forget what I told you, and listen to Kathy's advice, and we'll see you next week.